Wake up and live. It's time for us now to get into that mode. I think others call it GOAT mode, greatest of all time mode. Others call it beast mode. But it's a mode where you are awakened to your true potential as we give you motivation early in the morning. We will still be having our I Have a Dream as soon as we get hold of our holistic wellness practitioner, Adrian Nelson, who's currently experiencing load shedding. But send through your dream request on 0614104107, and let's have this conversation around growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. In studio, we've got our guest, one of South Africa's leading mindset coaches, Quentin Sanders. Quentin, good morning. Always a pleasure having you in studio.
Yes, morning. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Quentin, I was asking you off air, and I'm sure you probably picked it up that I was going to talk to you about it. How strenuous is your industry being a coach? Because being a mindset coach, you are helping mainly leaders
Yeah.
or people who want to transcend from just being complacent to becoming leaders of their own lives, of their own spheres. How demanding is that?
Yeah, so what I was saying is when people sometimes mix up that having a coaching session with someone is the same as just having a conversation, and it's not exactly the same. So when you have a coaching session, it's super focused, it's super slowed down, and it's you go deep in that. So it's, yeah, like, I think the best way I can describe it is super focused. So it's not the same as having just a normal conversation with your friend or your family member or whatever. So yeah, it's I was saying I don't coach 10 hours straight every single day, because it's not possible. It's just too you just yeah you'll get too drained. At the end of the day, your clients are paying you to show up fully, right? And if I'm there half asleep and I'm all over the show, that's not going to work.
So, in essence, coaching is almost like being a mind doctor for a person. You have to go through every phase that you guys are discussing, the past, the present, and the future in every session, and you need to almost be accountable for the things that they can't be accountable for. Because I can only imagine when, like the topic we're talking about this morning, growth
Yes.
mindset versus a fixed mindset, how much digging you need to do into a person's subconscious and history and past and present in order for you to unleash this growth mindset.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, you're going a lot deeper, and you yeah, it's a lot deeper than just the normal conversation and that. So I always say this is that it's a very interesting point that you mentioned, because the work we do is similar to the work you do with a personal trainer. The difference is we're working exactly like you said with the mind, and working out the mind and challenging the mind and the thoughts and the beliefs and the ideas, and changing that. Very similar to working with a personal trainer that's doing that with your body, stretching you, stretching the muscles and that. So the work we do is very similar. It's just with the mind.
And other people say, "Oh man, but it probably costs a lot to have a mindset coach." However, such such investments are investments that yield returns. Let's talk about that. You mentioned the personal trainer.
Yes.
I was mentioning a doctor, because all of them are specialists in their fields.
Yes.
Investing in a mindset coach, what does that do in terms of the returns that you gain?
So in the corporate space, the numbers, if you want to throw some numbers out, in the US, they say that companies that invest in coaching see a return of about 80% increase in confidence in the staff, output, or more focused results, etc. So if you're an individual, I always say the coaching is going to take you where a book can't take you, where a course can't take you. It's much deeper than that. At the end of the day, I mean, invest in personal development, like reading books and all those things, and that's awesome and that's cool, and we might touch on it on this at some stage, but there's a big difference between having more information and having transformation.
Yeah.
There's a much bigger difference, and I always say that's what we do in the coaching. The coaching is transformation. It's not about me giving you more information, because if it was that simple, again, we would just be able to read a few books and we'd be sorted. So, I mean, it can be difficult to quantify but what I always say to clients is this: if you work with me and I typically work with clients for nothing less than 4 months. If you work with me for 4 months, you will not be the same person by the end of it, you will not be the same person you were when we started. That I can guarantee you.
Because of the amount of transformation that takes place during the
you will
journey.
be a different person. So yeah, you that's one thing I guarantee. I don't guarantee results because it's up to you, but ultimately, if you show up to the coaching you will not be the same person.
Let's get into it. What is a fixed mindset?
So a fixed mindset, I will sometimes sort of compare it like this, right? Is a fixed mindset is not being an owner of your life. A fixed mindset is very linear. A fixed mindset is very, well, that's just the way the world is, or that's just the way I am. So there's no growth, and that's why the flip side of that is a growth mindset. But in a fixed mindset is simply just, I accept things exactly the way they are and I can't do anything about it, aka meaning I'm basically a victim. So I just allow life to happen to me.
What causes a fixed mindset? Because it doesn't sound like something I want to have.
A fixed mindset, I think, is just a lack of an awareness. It's simply that it's people just. So here's the thing: if I take a step back, when I started my journey with actually my own personal development and the coaching, and that's how I found coaching, was there was an awareness of like, hold on, I've been doing the same thing for 41 years or 40 years, and I keep making the same mistakes. The same things keep showing up, and then there was an awareness of like, hold on, I can actually change this. Like, nobody told me that you can change it. It's not about what's happened to you previously, and that you're not a victim of what's going on from your past or what is going on right now. You can change that, and that is a good example of what a fixed mindset is you don't have that awareness. You're a victim. And you may not even realize it's not. I don't think anybody chooses and puts their hand up and goes, I don't want to grow, I want to be a victim. They're just not aware. They're just not aware that they can change things and choose to change things. Life is not dictated by your circumstances. Although if you are in not such great circumstances, of course it's going to be harder, but you can always choose. You can always choose to do something about it.
But other people say I'm too old. This is how I've been doing things, and you know the saying, can't teach an old dog new tricks.
So here's the thing with that, right? Your growth actually never ends. So it really doesn't matter if you're 18 or 55. There's a saying that says that happiness is neither this or that. Happiness is growth. And you'll always see in your life, if you're growing, even though it's tough, if you're growing, you tend to be happier. The moment you get content and you just what we call cruising through life, you'll find that you'll be less happy.
Okay, so a fixed mindset is a dangerous mindset, basically. And it's dangerous for you, it's dangerous for those around you who need to tolerate this sort of mindset, who need to work with you, who need to do life with you. It seems like it's a difficult one, because then you're always playing the victim unawarely.
Yes. So, you get the thing with that is it often keeps you stuck. So when you have this fixed mindset, it's very a person, you can always pick it up in the language. A person like that would say things like, "Oh well, it's just the way it is," or That's just how life is another one in that. So you can hear it in the language. And the challenge with that is it basically keeps you stuck. Okay, you just, because now you just can put your hands up and say, well, that's just the way things are, end of conversation. It doesn't keep your mind thinking. If you have the flip side of that, the flip side is you ask yourself the question, how can I change this? What can I create? And that's a much better question to ask yourself, because
Yeah.
now it gets your mind going and the creativity going. When we've got a fixed, when we've got a fixed mindset, we're very uncreative usually. So it's very just very
A lot of
bland, and
excuses.
yeah, we
A
got,
lot of I'm just gonna vanilla it out.
yeah, it's just well, I don't need to really do anything about it. So it also what that does is also, you now don't need to do anything, right? You don't need to think about it. You don't need to do things differently in that, because it's just the way life is. So then that's that. So you've ended. Whereas if, let's say, I struggle financially, if I ask the question of how can I create more money, how can I create more value for clients, whatever it is, that gets you thinking, and that's usually where the changes and transformation happens, is in the things that you're not doing. So when you have that fixed mindset, it usually keeps you stuck. So when I'm speaking to people, and that, especially if that awareness isn't very high, a lot of the work that we do when we first start is first having that awareness, and that, because that's the start of, as we always say, the start of all change.
Now, talk to us about understanding what mental strength means.
So mental strength is, yeah, oftentimes, people, or not often, almost always, people, when they struggle financially, when they struggle in the workplace, when they struggle with life in general, there's a lack of mental strength, and it's very similar to the gym situation, right? Is if you're not looking after your body and those kind of things, then you're not going to be as fit, right? You're not going to be able to run 5Ks and whatever it is. It's exactly the same thing with the mental toughness. Mental toughness is, you're not, and I always use the dial thing, like on when you look at a stove, right? You got the setting 1 to 10, and I always ask, where's your mental toughness on that? Is it on a 7? Is it on a 3? And why is it so important? It is that determines how you deal with things, how you deal with life, and all kinds of things that are thrown at you constantly every single day. If you're mentally tough, you don't things like that don't bother you as much. It's not that they don't exist.
But you are not phased.
Yes, you're not gonna, you're mentally tough. I often, so there's a documentary on Netflix called Game Point, around the tennis, and they follow the tennis players, the world's best tennis players, and they follow them in that. And if you watch that program, you'll see there's a pattern of them saying the difference between, like, the top 100 people or tennis players, from the number one to the number 100. The only difference is their mental toughness. Most of them have the same skills. They've been training since the age of 2. So those things don't really, some are a little bit better and they have natural talent that puts them a little bit higher. But typically, it's all mental toughness. Rafael Nadal, all the guys, when they speak about why he's been so successful, is that his mental toughness is so high that you can't break the dude. So when things get tough in a game and he's 2 sets down or whatever it is, he'll just come back, and he'll still win the game.
How do you develop mental strength, though? I mean, especially because we as human beings, adults, have a lot of past experiences that play into our current lives. We've got a lot of anxieties about the future. There's circumstances that are external that we sometimes can't control. So how do you develop that mental strength?
So it's by starting to first be aware of it. I always want to start with the thoughts. Always, well, what thoughts are you having? Okay, so things are tough and that. So what's going through your mind? Well, and when we can start, and that's an awareness again. When you can be more aware of your thoughts, and that's the start of all change. Um, always investing in yourself and that. So it's very similar to the training in that you have to be daily focused on reading or whatever those things are, self-development, YouTube videos. We're blessed now with YouTube and that you get access to the best information and videos that you don't even have to pay for. And if you're constantly working on it, that's the short answer to that is you need to practice. It's not something you just get. It's something that you practice and practice and practice. And that's basically the start of building sort of more mental toughness, if you want to call it that.
And for a person who's saying, Quentin, I need to move from my fixed mindset, it's not doing me good. I want to develop a growth mindset. Describe to me what it is and how do I start my journey in developing a growth mindset?
So a growth mindset is obviously the opposite of a fixed mindset, but a growth mindset is having the understanding that I can create what I want to create, and that's why I compare it often to being an owner. So an owner, the difference between an owner and a victim and a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset is that a owner has the attitude of the life is happening for me. So it's not about things happening to me. That's the difference. If you start having that growth mindset, let me say it like this. If you have a growth mindset, it's not about how clever you are, how many, it's not about information always. Of course, it's helpful, but it's about having an awareness to want to grow. That's the thing. Do you want to actually grow? Do you want to? Because it takes effort, right? If you don't want to grow, it makes it easy because you don't have to do anything. But if you want to grow, that's how you have a growth mindset. And you don't need to try and figure things out. You can just allow things to happen. Things will appear. Maybe it's books that you need to read. Whatever that is, that will help you with your growth mindset and the start of that or the journey of that.
Life is happening for me,
Yes.
not to me.
Yes.
It's not just, I bumped into it. I
Mm-hmm.
bumped my toe and this is what's happening now. It aches. It's taking accountability.
Yes. Yeah, here's an awesome question for the listeners. If you can take just this one thing, you can almost coach yourself. Here's some self-coaching, is that you can, in the morning, ask yourself the question, what do I want to create today? And it can be, I want to create better relationships with my family, or maybe I want to create more business, or maybe whatever that is. Ask yourself the question, what do I want to create today? And then the next question you can ask yourself is, what do I need to do to create that? Maybe I need to spend a little bit more time with my family if that's what my thing is that I want to create today. And that is a growth mindset, is having that perspective of the world.
What do I want to create today? And perhaps not only in the morning we ask this question, perhaps in every juncture.
Yes.
I've got a task that I need to do. Last time we spoke, we were speaking about just start with just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I want to create right now with these tasks? I want to create peace of mind, less clutter, less anxiety. So do it. Do the
Yes.
one thing. So I think it's a conscious decision that you have to make with every task. Now, you say we need to practice self-care in order for us to move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. How do we practice the self-care? What does it look like?
So a lot of people actually struggle with this, is the self-care, and quite often times is when you're growing up, your mom or family members will say, always put others first. Always put others first. That's quite a common sort of thing that people understand, get told in that. So the thing with that is you need to give yourself time. So there's certain things you can do, whether it's go do yoga for an hour every day or spend 30 minutes just reading, whatever that is. Even if it's just chill out time, like I need 30 minutes where I'm just going to go and just sit somewhere and have a cup of coffee or whatever and just allow myself to have some time, that I'm not flying through life on autopilot. There's many things that you can do, But ultimately, it comes from this space, right? Is you can't serve or give from a. You've probably heard this before, from an empty cup. So quite oftentimes people are trying to help others, but they are not looking after themselves. They don't give themselves time
Yeah.
to still chill out or go and read or whatever the case is. So I think that's a very different answer for different people, because you usually will know if you sat and ask yourself, where can I give myself some time out or whatever it is. Maybe it's going to gym for an hour, whatever that is, reading, whatever it is. It'll look very different for everybody, but ultimately it's those things that we know we should be doing, but we're not really doing. So I would say that the answer is very different for everybody, but if you can do that, even if it's 5 minutes a day, because most people don't even do this. Wake up in the morning, and before you know it, the day is gone, and you're back in bed, and you don't even remember what you did today.
For yourself, you remember
Yes,
the tasks you did for everyone else or to earn a living, but for yourself, you have done nothing most of the time.
yes. And it's a thing that's very overlooked, because people almost feel guilty that they're doing this for themselves and whatever, because it's always, especially if you've got kids and stuff like that, it's always putting them first. And that, I think, is self-care, is where we don't allow ourselves to, literally what it says, look after yourself or give yourself some time.
Very true. Very, very true. Okay. So now self care is very important, from the physical to the mental, taking time out for yourself. Then there's the issue of dealing with stress. Can we take a quick break? When we come back, we deal with stress. One thing I remember hearing is that even children, babies, newborn babies, come out crying because of the stress of change of environment. So stress is there at every juncture of life. But I don't see little toddlers walking around frowning the way we do as adults, right? They can cry now and be frustrated and stressed now,
Mm,
and they know how to deal with it and move on. But with us, dealing with stress can keep you in a fixed mindset forever.
yeah,
So let's take a break and then we'll
awesome.
deal with that. Our guest this morning on Wake Up and Live on the Morning Bliss is Quentin Sanders, who's one of South Africa's leading mindset coaches. And Quentin is helping us understand growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And we've been through so much, and now we're going to be dealing with stress. How do we deal with this big word called, I'm stressed, you're
Mm,
stressing me out. Oh, this is stressful.
yeah,
Because it's used in so many ways, and it's used daily, sometimes every hour.
yeah, yep, it is. Yeah, it's probably one of the most common things that come up when I'm speaking to people, and that is stress. So stress, yeah, here's this thing with stress, and I'm going to take it back to the thoughts again. What you need to know about stress is that, first of all, it's actually stress and those things, and you mentioned about the baby coming out and baby's already crying. Here's this thing is that that stuff works for you. When you put in the reason why we have stress is that it actually helps us grow. Okay, so if there was no stress, we'd just be plodding along, and there would be, those stressful situations that actually help you grow. And if you start seeing that more as an opportunity, as a negative than a negative thing, then all of a sudden it changes completely. It's not that you don't have stress anymore, but you just deal with it in a completely different way. If you, so oftentimes we live in an illusion, right? And you mentioned it now with, oh, well, I'm stressed out, I'm stressed this, and it gets used quite loosely a lot of times as well, is if you can start being aware of your thoughts and see that it's actually just your thoughts that are stressing you out. Okay, because the situation, I put you in a situation and I put somebody else in a situation. One person's super stressed out and the other person's calm. But the situation's the same. So what that tells you is that it's your perception of the situation that actually stresses you out. And I often use this with my daughter. My daughter, and I may have mentioned, is she loves mice and like those kind of things or whatever. So if a mouse runs through the building, I will be the first person on this table, literally, because they freak me out. Now, my daughter will run after the thing and try and pick it up. So the same situation, I'm stressed out, she's not stressed out. So always check your perspective. That's where we actually get stuck. It's not the situation. It's not your boss. It's not these things or whatever. It's our perspective of that is actually stressing us out. And when you can start working on that, that's much deeper than just a two-step how to deal with stress. That's helpful. Breathing exercises and stuff like that, super helpful. But if you can take it one level deeper and you focus on your thoughts, what's my thoughts around this? Because it's the thoughts that are stressing you out. If you do struggle with stress and that, there's an awesome book by Byron Katie, and she basically the gist of it is that all pain and suffering is in our thought. All the pain and suffering is always in our thought.
You know, Quentin, you make it sound so easy. You make it sound like the fact that, you know, you've got too many debit orders and not enough income, stress,
Yep.
is not supposed to be stressful. You're supposed to just take it, you know, perception in the chin, you know, smile about it.
Yes.
It's not that simple.
I never said it was simple.
But you make it sound like it is. You just need to change your perspective on it. How do I change my perspective on something that is, you know, I can see the palpable results here, especially when it comes to income, right?
Yes.
Here you see, you've got 10 rand coming in, but you've got 15 rand that's demanded of you, and within that 15 rand, you're still short of 3 rand to be able to eat and feed your family.
Yes.
So that's a stressful situation. How do I look at it and say, well, yes, it's fact, you know, I'm about 8 rand short of my daily living.
Yes.
But my perspective must be good and I must not be stressed about it. How?
So here's this thing. It ties back into that mental toughness, right? Is it's not something that you're just going to. I don't for a second want to say that you fool yourself and pretend everything is okay, because that's not going to help you, because it will catch up to you. So here's this thing is you can just start slowing down. And what I mean by slowing down is actually slowing yourself down from a thought perspective, right? If you're short two rand on your budget or whatever, it is what it is right now. That's not going to go away. Sitting, stressing yourself out and getting stressed out is not going to serve you at all. What will serve you is to say, okay, cool, I'm in this. What could I do about it? What could I do that next month I'm not in the same situation? Here's another good question. How can I change this? What should I do that I'm not doing at the moment? And you can start now. I don't know what the answer for that is, but everybody will have a different answer. But at the end of the day, if you start asking yourself those questions, here's this thing: the solutions always lie in the things that you're not doing. So, and I always say this: it's always in the creative side. If you use your logic, you sit and you go, well, I've got my money's too many debit orders and not enough money coming in. How can I solve this? If you try and figure it out with your mind, you're actually going to stress yourself out. That's when we call it overthinking or getting in your own way. What you can do is just start getting more creative, because that's where the answers lie. Always they lie in the creative side, doing things that you're not doing at the moment, and you can solve it.
So basically, you are saying to deal with stress, we have to go to the first point, understanding what mental strength is. That's where you spoke about creativity.
Yes.
In order for us to deal with stress, we need to be creative.
Yes.
We need to have strength mentally so that we are able to create the right scenario for ourselves. Accept the reality, but create the right scenario. If it's not you who's stressed, but it's people around you, family member, partner, work, colleagues, children who are in tertiary or grade 12, how do you help them deal with that stress? Because that stress can create stress in you because you're worried about these people now. So how
Yes.
do you help others deal with stress?
So here's this thing. You can't help them in the sense of changing them, if you want to call it that. The only thing you can do is you can slow things down. There's a saying that I often share with people is this is I create you, you create me. So the way I show up, I create you as well. So in that situation, and we're going to go deep now with this because it's this kind of thing we could probably coach on 3 months just on this one principle. But really, what you want to do is always bring it back to you and say, how am I showing up? If you showing up and you stressed and you'll just create more of that in them. Okay. So what you need to do is just create the peace in that in yourself, and that'll naturally actually create it in them also. And you can share things and stuff like that if you know you maybe took something out of this interview this morning or whatever, and you can share it with them. Hey, here's something helpful. It's called slowing down, and it just slow everything down. Be more in the moment. But you can't change people. You can only focus on yourself, and when you do that, you'll see people around you change. It's quite a funny thing. So the more stressless, less stress you have, and the more slowed down you are, and that you actually create it in people around you.
So we hope. Because you must remember, I've listened to Quentin Sanders now on the Morning Bliss, and yes, I want a growth mindset. Doesn't mean my partner wants the same. It doesn't mean my colleagues want the same. Doesn't mean my children want the same. Because they haven't heard you.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't have this opportunity. So here I am, I'm calm, I'm smiling, I'm happy. And I'm dealing with people with a fixed mindset who just keep doing the same thing, getting the same results, and things just don't change.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think, yeah, it goes back to creativity, it goes back to inner self, and like you
Yes.
say, can't change others,
No.
but you can change your perspective and your reaction and your output. And if they can't take it, okay, it's theirs. So how do we set goals? Because a growth mindset is one that keeps growing. It's not one that is stagnant.
Yes. So here's the thing. Goals are so important, and I mentioned it last week. And that there's a model called SMART, setting up SMART goals. And you'll always hear when you go and Google goals or whatever, they always use the SMART sort of model or that, and it's that specific, measurable, ac- ac- achievable, relevant and time bound. To take that a much deeper, I always, when I work with somebody or speak to somebody, is that goals are always a place to come from. It's not something it's not a point of where we now arrive. It's a place to come from. It's Tony Robbins that says that the real value in goals is the person that you become along the way. That's actually the real value. It's not you make more money. That's awesome if you achieve the goal, but the real value is who you become in the process, and that's that growth mindset that comes through. You constantly growing, and you're right. It's not just you do it 1 or 2 days. It's an ongoing thing. When you start stepping into a growth mindset, then it becomes a way of being. It becomes a way of living. You understand that it's just a journey, and there's no place to arrive.
And since you say goals are where you come from, it's not where necessarily you're going, right?
Yes.
How do we set realistic goals? Because other people are setting goals that are just unrealistic, and
So
that's frustration. That frustration that is built from unrealistic goals is something that can hamper your growth mindset.
yes. So you have this thing. There's two sides to this coin, right? Is sometimes if I speak to somebody, I'll actually say you're not creating big enough goals, and that's why you're not so motivated, or that's why you're not so excited because your goals aren't big enough. However, you must always remember this: the bigger the goal, the bigger the commitment that's required. Okay, so everybody wants to be an Oprah and do big things, and that's awesome. But then you need to know, are you prepared to work on this day in, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week for the next 15 years to create that? And sometimes that's where people get stuck, and they, okay, I see what you're saying. So the goals is very simple. The bigger the things that you want to do, you need to know the commitment is just going to be a lot higher. So for me, it's not so much about the goal. I never want to limit somebody. If they think they can become the next Oprah, awesome. I'll love to work with you on that. But just remember, he has this thing: is the commitment is going to have to be really, really high. So are you ready for that? And you might not be there now, but we can work on that. Whenever we don't have what we don't, whenever we don't have what we want, it's usually a commitment issue. Okay, we don't have a six pack because we're not going to gym 6 days a
Oh,
week.
please stop that.
If
You
we,
have to go there. Why do you go there, Clinton?
I always share that because I can relate. So I think
Man, you know, talk about six packs when I'm so heavy like that. No, you didn't have to go there. That was too personal. Yeah, but I hear you.
yeah. So it's a commitment thing, right? The higher the bigger the goals, you must just remember the bigger the commitment to that is. So where's your commitment at this point? Are you actually there to? Are you that committed to create what it is that you want? Um, and he has this thing with goals is you can create any goal, but you have to know that you have to take steps towards that every single day. If you're not doing that, you're basically living in la la land. You daydreaming. That's the difference between daydreaming and actually having a goal is that you are actually doing something to work towards that. That's the difference. Otherwise, you're just daydreaming.
Give us 5 pointers that we should not forget as we wrap up our conversation, please, Clinton.
Um, it's sort of not quite relevant, but it is relevant. I want to say this is just slow everything down. And I'm going to repeat that because it's just such a powerful thing to know, to slow everything down. Um, be aware that your mindset does have an impact on your life. It's always going to impact your work. It's going to impact what you do with um, family. Everything is impacted by that. Um, replace the thing of failing with I'm growing. There's a big difference between I'm failing and I'm growing.
I like that.
If I'm growing, that's a different thing. If I'm saying I'm failing, then again you're stuck in. You can just be aware you're in a fixed mindset again. If you're in a growth mindset, you know that you're just constantly growing. That's all that's happening. A lot of challenges. It means awesome. I'm growing. I'm not saying that it's easy. Um, yeah, I think that's the biggest things that I could leave is maybe that's the one point even is that
I think it's a very
is
powerful one.
yeah.
Instead of saying I am failing, I am growing, because growth requires you to have experiences. And you say that the person that you become in the journey of achieving these goals and this growth is what you take out more than the goal itself.
Yes.
Thank you so very much, Quentin.
Awesome, thank you.
Always such a great pleasure. You make us wake up and want to live our best lives. How do we follow you on social media and get hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The handle is basically the same, Quinton Sanders or Quinton Sanders SA. But if you go into Facebook or Instagram or what, you'll find my content there and stuff, short reels and that. So you can just connect and follow with me there. A lot of the stuff that I shared today and that is things that I've also shared on there. So you can go and check that out.
Excellent. Always a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for waking up early to help us understand what a growth mindset is.
No, it's awesome. I'm glad there was some value in that. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.